everybody. This is another episode of me talking to you about mindset and why mindset is so important. And yes, it is based off of the book series that I've written called the Radiate the Brain book series. But I think it's important because, whether things are really going bad or not, people are people. We are all different and we all have our own challenges. Sometimes things happen to us, sometimes we're sabotaged, and sometimes we're self-sabotage. And many times it's simply because we've been exposed to things and people that seem to have, sometimes unintentionally, but sometimes intentionally, they have hindered our growth process. And like I say, intentionally or unintentionally, it really doesn't matter, because at the end of any day, it needs to be straightened out. And again, this is part of the writing from the book series, Aligned by Design, linked into your legacy. Now, I really think that we all have a legacy, or should be trying to create a meaningful and memorable legacy. But I know that many times it can be difficult. And the reason why it's difficult is because we may not really know how to create this legacy. We may not know that we're even in the process of doing it, or the things that we do contribute to having a legacy. And I think one of the most important things is to understand that everyone has something. We talk about having a gift, skill, talent, or an ability. Well, the long and short of it is that you have an alignment. I have an alignment. Everyone has something that they are good at, supposed to be good at, or a path that is designed for them. And again, we need to know what it is. We need to be able to, tap into it. But sometimes we simply don't know how to tap into it because our life and our environment has led us down a certain path. And we're all different. And everyone does not bounce back or come back or have the resilience to navigate through life and all of the challenges that come along with, the path that life has to offer. Because let's face it, everything that we deal with in life isn't always kind. Sometimes there are things that really are dramatic, and sometimes they are traumatic. And as I always say, if you're not careful, you might learn something. But we all have a sweet spot. I call it the sweet spot. That thing that you're just excellent at. That thing that, no one does it like you. And even if they do, your voice is the voice that makes certain people aware because of how you present it. When I teach my coaching session on book writing, it's called Tell Your Story, Live Your Story, Be Your Story. Again, I do have these phrases that align themselves, pardon the pun, with my philosophy of life. And that's everyone has a story, but everyone can't tell the story the way you do it. There's someone waiting to hear your story, but in your authentic voice. And the reason is I could tell your story, or I could tell people about you, but it won't be the same as you speaking about that very same thing, your own story. Even if it's another topic that has nothing to do with you. It may be related to your profession. The way that you share that information, I don't know why my seat is dipping, but the way you share that information is very important, because someone can identify, or your voice resonates with certain people, and my voice resonates with certain people. Yeah, there are people out there that seem to be able to talk to anybody, but there is a certain thing about the way you look, the way that you sound, and the way that you present your information that creates a certain relatability because it's specifically you. So let's move on. Hey folks, Sir Charles Carey here. Most people that are watching this content may not even be subscribers. Do me a huge favor and subscribe to our channel, share it and like it. All the things that most people are asking you to do. Now, if you really like what you're getting here, please go to our website. The link will be in the description so that we can give you something free. No obligation. It'll either be the 3 peak tips or a structured breakdown so that you can take advantage of it. And again, there's no obligation. As we continue to build the channel, look for new subscribers, and look for the opportunity to pour into other people. We know there is massive value. I've been doing this for quite some time, and all I really want to do in my life is more of the same. Pour into others the way others have poured into me. I work with many people. I've studied from many of the greats, and now it's your turn to get the same opportunity. Thanks a lot. See you. Back to the conversation. I have in my book, again, Line by Design, I talk about critical in-depth analysis. And this, and take notes if any of this is making sense to you. If you can find the value in anything that I'm sharing with you, please do take notes. But critical in-depth analysis is simply you having the ability, and it's not something everyone can do, but having the ability to be critical or to assess or to analyze you, to analyze your behavior, maybe your thought patterns, maybe the way that you speak, regardless to the environment, just literally being able to critique you. And here's the benefit. It's not about just being able to do that, but sort of being able to do that to pick you apart. Not for the purpose of being negative or down on you, but seeing where you can improve in certain areas. Now, in a perfect world, we would all see where we make mistakes, go left when we should go right, and we will correct ourselves. Well, that's why we have coaches, mentors, pastors, guides, and counselors, et cetera, et cetera. However, those people don't live with you. They are not necessarily going to be at your beck and call. Like, I have a therapist, but you know what? My therapist doesn't live with me. So I have to be able to be honest with myself. And why my chairs keep going down. I have to be able to be honest with myself when I make bad decisions, questionable decisions, or when I'm just simply uncertain. And that's what critical in-depth analysis is about. It's about being able to assess yourself, stepping outside of what you want and what you need from a desirable perspective, and critiquing whether you're doing things that will help you get those results. Now, of course, your spouse can tell you, your counselor can tell you, but if you can say, hold on, things aren't really going the way I want. Let me see, how did I do this? Did I start on time? Do I have the right tools? Am I in a good mood? Am I well rested? Whatever it may be, can you critique yourself and be honest with yourself to see how you can course correct to move closer to the end result that you truly want? Now, everyone can't do it. I'm not going to say that it's easy, but it's a really great tool or a great approach, a great strategy. If you can step outside of yourself and say, you know what, let me look at this thing a little different. How am I really going about it? Am I spending more time on the phone and I say I'm going to get to do my task, and at the end of the day, now I'm tired, and if I hadn't been on my phone all day, I could have done my task, so tomorrow I'll start early. Being able to be honest with yourself is really so important. And one thing I did not say when I spoke about Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, the first book, and when I spoke about What's So Hard About Being Used, that each of these books will challenge you. And yes and no, I'm not saying this because I want to sell you the book. I would love to sell the book to you, but that's not the goal. It's to get your thinking moving in a different direction, because if you can attack, approach, strategize in life differently than you have in the past, 9 times out of 10, you will get different results. But you won't get different results if you're doing the same things that you've always been doing. because the decisions that you have made have gotten you where you are today. Same thing for me. The decisions that I have made are the decisions that have positioned me to be exactly where I am today. And if I had made better decisions or different decisions, maybe I would be further along. Maybe I would have bypassed some of the failures in my life. Maybe I would have, who knows, done some things in a way that, the end result just simply would have been different. So we have to understand that critical in-depth analysis is something that you can do. In fact, for those that it's difficult to do, this is what I would suggest. How about asking someone that you trust as you're trying to apply this critical in-depth analysis, this self-assessment, right? How about asking someone you trust that has your best interest in mind and at heart? Ask them, hey, am I my normal self, or did I show up the way that I normally do, or the way that makes sense, or in a way that's helpful? And get their honest feedback. And that may help to prompt you on how you assess your behavior, whether it's something you said, did not do, whatever it may be. But otherwise, do the work, do the assessment of yourself, and you'll see the results you get. And guess what? It's only for you. The people around you, your clients, your co-workers, people in your place of worship, people that you interact with, they will get the reward if you're really doing it, because you'll see some things that you may need to change. Okay, let's move on. Everything is compounded. I say in many cases, we go through life and we do what we do, whatever it may be, and there's a bump in the road. Where normally the bump in the road did not just appear. Over time, it was developing. And the bump in the road could be anything from suddenly gaining weight, maybe losing weight, maybe having a bill to pay, a bill being behind. In other words, there were things leading up to these occurrences. Whether we paid attention to them, did not realize or did not notice them, it doesn't matter. The point is, it didn't just, boom, happen all of a sudden. Out of nowhere, in comes a problem. Normally, a problem comes from one thing leading to another thing, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then voila, there we have the problem. So we have to be able to, again, be open, honest, clear, and direct with ourselves as we do the critical in-depth analysis, right? To think about, hey, how did I get in this position? And I know as adults, we figure like we probably don't have to answer to anyone, but sometimes you do. When you're in a relationship, or when you have children, or you have a business partner, you kind of do have to answer, and not in the fashion of you being chastised, but in the fashion that the accountability factor makes a difference in how fruitful the outcome will be of a thing. Why you did or did not make payroll, whether you did or did not have a gross profit, whether, food was cooked, or, your expenses were met, or your goals were met for the week, for the month, whatever it may be. When you think about the word compounded, co meaning with, right? So when you have something with, that means it's not a singular action or a singular activity. It's one thing with another thing. And that's what we have to realize, that when things are compounded, as far as our behaviors and our problems, again, the critical in-depth analysis really helps us narrow in on what the issues are so that we can address the problem and move on. Now, I believe there's another facet that we have to consider, and a lot of times we don't, because Again, when you become an adult, you've been living your entire life a particular way, and you kind of feel like, again, you don't really need to answer to anyone, but sometimes you have to answer to yourself. And why I say you have to answer to yourself is because how do you expect to get different results if you keep doing the same things? Now, again, I'm not speaking about a specific behavior or action, but it really doesn't matter what the behavior or the actions are that you're trying to fix or course correct. What happens a lot of times in our minds, because we're human and we're adults in most cases, we don't like the way it feels to be ashamed. We don't like the way it feels to be wrong. So we have a conversation going on, and a lot of times that conversation, we script it. Because when we speak to other people about this issue or that issue, especially if other people are involved or if other people are impacted, we want to sound intelligent. We want to sound like we're on top of things. We don't want to sound like we dropped the ball. We don't want to sound, right? But the point is, many times, the voice that started you down that path, that helped you script your story, that voice is actually lying to you. That's the long and short of it. And we buy into it because of the embarrassment, because of the shame, because of wanting to show up in this particular way that, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good, but you can't change what you don't acknowledge. Now, even if you don't tell other people, hey, I messed up. Hey, I messed up. You don't always have to do that, but you can say within yourself, dang it, I dropped the ball. Let me fix this before they find out, or let me let them know what's going on. Versus, well, if he hadn't done this, I probably wouldn't be in this position. If she had not made me mad, you see what I'm saying? We get things twisted. Many times we script an entire story. We hold on to that story so that it doesn't seem so bad. And we tell that story to whomever and we stand by it because actually we're grown. We don't have to say anything to anyone that we don't want to say. And that's just the long and short of it. Now, no one's perfect. No one's always going to get it right. No one's going to always say it right. But there's a thing called integrity. There's a thing called honesty. There's a thing called just simply trying to do the daggone thing right. And if you can do the thing right, whatever that thing is, people will respect you and you will go a long way. You will go so much further simply on the fruit and the strength of, being a straight up guy or a straight up woman, whatever the case may be. And nothing beats a failure but a try. Now, it does not guarantee that these things that I'm saying will always work in your best favor. It does not guarantee that. But I tell you what, it sure feels good when you go to sleep at night, when you wake up in the morning knowing that you did the right thing. You tried to do the right thing. You put your best foot forward and your intentions were pure. Your motives were honest and straightforward. And hopefully, having that train of thought time and time again will yield you the results you really want and the results you really need. So, I'd just like to say, if you have any questions, any comments, please DM me. If you know my number directly, give me a call. I'd love to discuss some of these things with you. And again, it's from the book series, Aligned by Design, the Radiate the Brain book series. And I'm just really enjoying sharing some of these tips with you. I think the first book, in fact, the first book is about 176 pages, and I only spoke to you about a few tips. The second book, What's So Hard About Being You, is not quite that long, but I've only extracted a few tips that I thought were pertinent. It's hard to say what's more important because I don't know who's watching, but I do know for a fact that the information I'm sharing, again, I've had people from different age groups have identified with the writing, the philosophy, the approach that I'm taking, because it's really simplistic. In my personal opinion, some of these things we really should not have to be talking about or being learned about, but this is life. Everyone's different, and everyone's needs sometimes change. And because of how the world treats us, the things we've experienced, sometimes we change ourselves. So we need to be course corrected, or we need something to remind us of the greatness that we hold on the inside. So with that being said, until the next time, I'll probably talk to you about another book or another topic that relates to mindset from the book After the Diagnosis. So with that being said, again, you say I gotta go now, right? Radiate the brain and change the game.